I'm Gabe Lullo, and welcome to the Do Hard Things podcast. We're talking to go-to-market leaders and entrepreneurs who have conquered the challenges, the hustle, and the grind. Get ready for real talk, real insights, and no fluff.
But the hardest thing in the world right now is not actually closing deals, it's actually getting somebody's attention.
If you don't have that hook in that first 5 to 10 seconds, guess what? They're going to scroll to the next one.
You need to go in and you need to make it sound like yourself. That's the biggest piece of the puzzle. And I promise you, we can all tell.
The people that are trolls and the people that are haters never done the thing that you're doing.
I love doing this podcast because I get a front row seat to some of the greatest minds in sales.
Gone are the days of saying stay in your lane. When you're an executive leader and you're an enterprise-wide leader, there are no lanes. You've got to be partners.
Curiosity is like when the type of questions you ask is sometimes the value that you bring.
I need you to tell me when you're ready to buy or what you're ready to do. And I think it's changed so much into like adding more value. And if you're not doing that, then you're definitely going to come off as desperate.
High pressure selling is like a dinosaur tactic at this point.
No parent is like, oh, you should be a salesperson when you grow up, right? Everyone's like a doctor, lawyer, whatever crap. It's never salespeople.
It's not your job to motivate people. It's your job to find motivated people.
It's not cockiness. It's not arrogance. It's confidence knowing I know this and I know that I can help you.
From where I started to where I am today is all because I learned how to sell.
And there's too many people who have only been doing this for 5 freaking minutes. Sit down, close your mouth, actually go out there and get yourself beat up. Then come back and tell me if something is dead or not.
That is exactly why I started this podcast, because right there, that's the epitome of doing hard things.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Do Hard Things podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Lullo, and I'm super pumped to be introducing you to our guest speaker today. Meet Tim Savage. Tim is a fractional chief revenue officer. He has a laser focus on projection and net revenue retention. And what I love about Tim is that he really blends his expertise in the sales and innovative technology to drive results. I know him personally. He works with us and we collaborate a lot. He's a devoted family man. He's a girl dad. So am I as well. So we have that in common. He's also a dog dad and a proud advocate of work-life balance. You can see him on the golf course or diving into, latest sales strategies. He has this video set up. I love this, Tim, that you bring around with you. And, you're always making amazing content on LinkedIn, which we follow. The whole company follows you. But, your background's incredible, right? 25 years of experience in sales. I know the companies you're working with, you're driving, their sales funnel, you're making sure that, they're contributing to their overall goals. And, you manage sales teams from BDRs to AEs to VPs of sales. It's pretty impeccable. So welcome to the podcast, man. I'm really excited to get into this with you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. This is very exciting stuff for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, here's the thing. We started this podcast because we wanted to interview people like yourself who, have a background in sales, because there's no school. You don't go to college to be in sales, but you can make an insane amount of money, have a lot of success, but then you can take it to the next level and you can go, be an executive, and you're a fractional executive. So we love to hear origin stories. So how did you get here? Like what got you into this game of sales, and where did your journey, start, and how did you get to where it is today? I'd love to hear your story.
Well, so I started doing cold calls in 1992 as a telemarketer for Weekly Reader Books. Weekly Reader Books will really date people, but the whole sales pitch which really set up my understanding for how to be able to bring somebody into a yes was we'll send you one book now. If you don't like it, send it back. We won't send it anymore. If you like it, we'll send you some more. Yeah. And I would come in, I would hit my quota of 40, like hour and a half. The guy next to me, his name was Tyrese, but not Tyrese, but he would sit there and he would struggle. And I said, look, man, just give it to them in a way they can see it as they can picture getting these books. And there you go. So that built me into really going out, working in not only just sales, but graduating college and for communications degree, but got out and then worked in recruiting and founded a recruiting company with a bunch of people. And that brought me into then understanding really the power of 100 phone calls in a day. And I started a BDR firm, 2005, where I sold myself cold calls for $5 a piece. That was my sales pitch. and people loved it, and it got me involved with a bunch of stuff. So from there, it's got me into startups and the ability to be just around a lot of amazing people, around a lot of companies. And ultimately, it begs for projections. It begs for the ability to know where we're going, which has got me into leadership of it, and now working with a number of super great companies to be able to, you know, be able to lead the function of where it's going from a sales standpoint, but also from projection and understand, where we're going and how we're getting there standpoint too.
Yeah, you said something about your friend who you're sitting next to, right? And you said, "Hey, this is how you do it." It was interesting. I was an individual contributor as well when I first started off, and I read this book. I think it was Zig Ziglar, and he said in the book, "If you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything you want." And that was like a shift for me where it went from, okay, I'm actually pretty good at this sales thing, but I'm only going to get so far as an individual contributor. I have to teach other people how to be successful in it, right? And then that could, do exponential things for my life. So when you made that shift and you started helping other people and building your business, was that a shift for you as well, where it went from what do I do to make sure that I'm eating steak as opposed to ramen noodles for my individual contribution, and then moving into this, helping other companies, helping other people. How did you make that shift for yourself?
Well, I think it's really just I have a large empathy for people that are doing their best to better themselves. If you're not doing the best to better yourself, I don't have a lot of empathy for you. I'm like, if you are, that it's really big to me. And I can remember there was a BDR position we had open on a team. I had 8 BDRs in the team currently, and some end team said, "Hey, I've got a friend of mine. She's really great, and she works at Sport Clips." I said, "Hey, cutting hair." I said, "Yes." I said, "I think she'd be great for this." I interviewed her, and I said, "Okay, it sounds great. Now send me over your LinkedIn and your resume." She said, "What's LinkedIn?" And I said, "Okay, let's start from there." So we built out her LinkedIn, built out her resume. I ended up hiring her. Remember, she started her first day. She was in a living with her parents, and she was sitting on the floor on a computer, starting off that we'd sent with her. And she had no idea what to do, but I knew she would be good at once she got on the phones. So I gave her basic stuff to be able to go through with. And I said, just get on the phone and start talking to people.
Yeah.
And now I guess it's 6 so and years later, she's successful in sales and works in cybersecurity and all that types of stuff. But it's seeing people that want to get ahead. I think nothing gives me more joy than being able to help people with that. But it does mean also to do that, to get ahead, you do have to go through the gauntlet of learning how to do all these things and making sure that they're able to do that. And every day, that's something I work with my teams on. You have to do these small things well, the hard things, do the hard things well, and then they become easy, and then you never talk about them again. And there's always a next hard to it. But when you work together and you keep focused with people on it, and you don't let it slide, you don't enable them, so that they feel a soft sense of success before the time is correct. Then when they do hit success, it's not only just sweet, but it becomes the momentum and the propeller of the plane forward to have them even fly higher.
That's awesome. Well, let's unpack that more because you hit so many golden nuggets. And it's funny because, the podcast, as you just mentioned, right? Do hard things. But here's what I realized. Like, I don't have calluses on my hands. I don't smell like fish at the end of the day because I worked in the restaurant. My buddy has a roofing business, right? Like, I'm not roofing companies or houses, right? And have the potential of falling off the roof. Like, that to me is hard. Why is sales so hard? Like, the only thing that really we deal with is the rejection and the word no, right? So why is it so hard for people, and why do people think sales is so hard when I can think of countless other jobs in the world, right? To me, it seems a lot harder than what we do. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's because you're having to deal with the person in the mirror. And that's the hardest person to deal with, because you have to then understand in yourself that sure, someone's giving you a no, but can you pragmatically break that apart into the overall picture of where you did get a yes? So they said an overall no, but what did you define to be able to build out that larger yes and the larger ability to be able to grow what you want to do? And I think for a lot of people, that's hard to see the full game plan when you haven't been the whole way through it. It's kind of like when you see a postseason athlete playing with non-postseason. It's their first time in the postseason. They don't really realize it's a whole separate season, right? We all start at zero, but you lose this game, you're out, right? And I think seeing that from the full view of it, while pragmatically breaking it down to a play, it does make it harder because that one loss makes you stop and then think. Where if you go back to waiting tables or putting a roof up or whatnot, you can go to that. This one shingle didn't work. I can throw it out and put another one on there, and I get back into my rhythm. Getting into that rhythm in sales, you have to talk to the person in the mirror and reset yourself to be able to get back into that rhythm. And that means you have to be able to pull from yourself to do that. And experience is the kindest teacher of it. But when you don't have that, it becomes the largest deficit, and you can mistake it for being that you don't know and that you're not good and you won't be able to do it. And once you flip it to go, I need to know, I will make it, and I am good, that flip becomes now the paradigm shift that I believe once you get that, you can do anything you want. And sales is the one place it all comes together.
I love it. That's awesome. So in your intro, right, we talked about technology and how you're a lover of technology. You're always, I know you're always ahead of the curve. You're always understanding what the next new trends are in our industry. Obviously, AI, we can't get away from saying it in every podcast in 2025, right? But what are your thoughts on where technology, especially AI, lives in our go-to-market world, and where do you think you see it going? Not in the future, because we don't know everything, but where do you see it happening in the next, say, the next 6 to 12 months as we move into 2025 here?
Yeah, I think we're looking at the understanding of what a prompt is. That is our gap right now. So people think that AI is this magic ball of outcomes that you give it a question and answers everything. When really AI is the ultimate formatter of context. So if I go in and give AI a context of what I know, it can bring me back a formatted response on it to give me understanding of where I am, not predicting the future, not moving into uncontextual, broken down ideas or thoughts. So, what we're looking at is in the context of the data that we have, we're able to use AI to define better what's currently here. It's like you can't know where you're going unless you at least have 2 points. Well, the AI is 1 point that's way out in the future or way out kind of in the near the horizon, but you need another point to show where that direction is. And that's where I feel like we're missing right now. When you use AI to contextualize what's happening in your current environment and use the context of knowing what's in your environment, you can really understand so much more than your mind currently has available, especially if you go in and ask that question verbally on any AI tool and it gives it back to you verbally. A lot of us, especially in sales, we are auditory learners, right? We're in sales because we can talk to people, and we have forced ourselves to memorize things because it gives us safety and it gives us success. So we can memorize something when we hear it, but we have trouble reading it. A lot of people in sales that are ADD, ADHD, dyslexic, all that types of stuff, because reading things doesn't happen as quickly for us, right? It's just a natural piece, but we can hear it. So when you talk something into an AI, it gives you back to you verbally. You want to download something to your brain, ask it, it tells you, but the context of what you're asking and the data that you feed it becomes what you're getting back. So I think where it's a beautiful time because the lie has now been exposed. The data is not in the CRM, right? The data is not in the activity. So everyone doing sales is dataless, right? Companies like Growblocks and others went out of business because there wasn't enough data in the CRMs to be able to give the projection that they had built a business upon with the assumption that the data was there. What that gives is a benefit for people in sales is that if you are a data focused, functionally focused salesperson, the win is on your side. If you are a cowboy or a cowgirl out there taking orders and hoping for the next step, and that's your strategy, I hate to let you know this, but the business that you're in is changing and you need to find a new way because hope is not a strategy. And AI ultimately clarifies that hope is not a strategy. Hope is in your heart and who you are, but the strategy is now how you build with the context of the hope that is built the understanding for where you are, and then taking that information that I use that in contextual format again and again, so it now builds on itself. So it's ultimately like what a sale is. You build on a conversation. AI is the exact example of it, just doing it in the contextual form of knowing where it is, not guesstimating or hoping that the person's going to actually want it.
Light bulbs are going off for our audience right now, man. You're dropping all the good stuff right now. I love it. By the way, we do hard things and came from a family motto of ours. And I know you're a girl dad as well as I am. So I have like, as salespeople, to your point, we're auditory listeners. I felt like you were like profiling me because we're all the same in regards to that, right? And I always tell my daughter, do hard things, but I also say hope is not a strategy, right? You make your own luck, right? Those are all this like the sales tactics, right? So this is awesome. I appreciate this. So let's talk about collaboration because we are collaboration partners, but I also see a massive movement right now in networking, in social, in content creation. If you're a CEO or CRO or CMO and you're not creating content to drive collaboration, to then drive referral partners and networking, it's different than it used to be, right? Networking was going to events and going to seminars and going to conferences. Now it's about, creating podcasts. And why the heck are you and I on a podcast right now? Like it's a very different way. So can you kind of take us through like what founders and clients that you're working with and how do you advise them in building this collaboration and networking and content creation right now in 2025?
Well, the first thing I tell them, hey, if nothing's new, right? We've been creating content, especially in sales and as leaders for thousands of years, right? So definitely don't go on LinkedIn and somebody tells you this is new. They're just young in the game and they don't actually know that it's not new. The basics of business have happened before. It happened. It's going to happen again, right? There is nothing new under the sun. So, but the thing is that is exciting is now we have a season where we can access this. It's such a great form. And I think that's when we miss, where we hear a lot of things about creating content and we speak about it like everybody's an expert on it. When really most of the stuff, if I see one more person on a and they have a little microphone to their mouth and they throw up because you can just get a boom mic and just shoot it off your camera and you don't have to have a mic and it gives you a perfect sound. And a boom mic is even cheaper than that. So I digress, but let's just talk about that. But the point of it is being able to not look at the past. And so I look at the past and I go, how have the great communicator, great business people gone out there and done and done well? Well, How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? Just go read that book and go put that. There's your content strategy. This is an exact example of it, right? So when you go and you look at the basics of what's worked, it's the exact same thing. We just now have so many mediums to do it in. And it's also being able to say, and I said to somebody the other day, hey, I get a lot more value out of Substack than I do LinkedIn, right? And they said, well, you know what? And they went into all this engagement data. I said, oh, my friend, you have me misunderstood. I'm not looking at Substack or LinkedIn to go get subscribers for some newsletter, right? I'm looking at opportunities to be able to create profitability and growth of businesses and build off of that, not be somebody who's a talking head on a screen, which is why this is great. We're talking about things to build business, give people value, give insights, rather than, hey, I just want to be out there to gain it, because, lurkers buy. People who never post and never like and never comment, those become your biggest customers off of being able to put content out there. So the biggest revenue I've created off of being able to create content are people that never even posted on anything. They called me, they DM'd me, or they emailed me. And that becomes the basics of really where we are in content. And we're seeing the bell curve start to go over the top now, in the sense there's so much out there. And we're seeing people who were even 3 or 4 months ago, all bullish, nothing but content, everything else. And then they didn't know why. So this is a well-known why that we're doing this, right? Which is why I like it, and why when I watch these, they're helpful. The why is there. The why is being able to communicate and understand and help people build together. And that's where ultimately, if I'm talking to anybody, what's your why behind it? And then building from that why ultimately doesn't mean you need these gargantuan numbers. You need the right numbers. So Wayne's World, Michael Myers comes off the stage, says to the staff, "Hey, Wayne's World, first one. Can you believe all of those laughs that we just got? Oh my gosh!" Oh gosh, his name is leave me the creator of Saturday Night Live.
Lorne Michaels.
Lorne Michaels says to Mike Myers, "Yes, but were those the right laughs?"
Right.
I heard that story, blew my mind, and I went, "That's exactly it." You know what I mean? And do we have the right people engaging in your content for the outcome that you want, but ultimately being able to have a non, I need all these subscribers, I need all these things that then make you stepping over a $5 bill for a nickel, right? And being able to focus on the right things. So I constantly reconstitute, but I consistently go back to that and also keep myself in check at any content that I'm creating of what's my why to do it. And then ultimately being able to come out the other side of thinking like, I have at Tim Savage on Twitter or X and Instagram because I was doing Twitter and Instagram when they started, right? That's how old I am, right? That really dates me, right? So I don't have a vanity Tim Savage because I went out and bought it. I've been doing it that long, but it means I've been through so many content seasons, and you can see the loops of them. So if somebody comes down and says, "Oh my gosh, about this great new thing," it's like, well, it's not really new. But you come to a podcast like this, of a video interview like this, you're seeing classic abilities of it, and it means you can watch them, build on it, and it becomes something you can prescribe to your team to watch because the goal of it is not just to be seen, but the goal is to be able to inform and engage.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's funny. I had a marketing professor back in school. I'm now dating myself. This is 2000. And it's interesting. He taught me something that, just makes so much sense. It's common sense. And he's like, the key to marketing, everyone says that cliche is like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And everyone agrees with that, right? But at the end of the day, it's actually not true. And he says this, he said, it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And we're all looking at him confused. And we're like, what does that even mean? He's like, well, do you know who Bill Gates is? And we're like, yeah. Does he know you? You know who Michael Jordan is? Well, yeah. But does he know you? And that's the key to marketing. And I think with LinkedIn right now, and you're a master at it, and we love what you do, but you create this amount of trust. Like, right, you're posting pictures of your family. You're posting pictures, of your excursions, of your boxing, but you're also dropping a ton of, knowledge as well. And then I see people who are just posting like selfies and it looks like Instagram. And then I see other people who are just posting like really boring case studies and I don't like want to read all of it. Like, so there's this healthy balance and I think you've mastered it. How do you figure out like what that balance looks like? What's your recipe, if you don't mind sharing a couple tidbits here for us?
Yeah, well, in 2009, I started a social media marketing agency. And if you track back to 2009, there was no social media, right? So it was, I asked people, "Hey, I want to manage your Facebook page for your company." I mean, my profile? No, like your page, your Facebook page. You have a Facebook page. And at one point, I had so many clients from this. I had the tabs were so small on my screen, so I could remember everyone I had to post for every day. So every day, all these posts I had to do. And this is 2010, and it was and the thing I then ended up telling myself was that I didn't need this big posting plan. I just needed to post today. Just got to post for today. So when I think about LinkedIn or anything like that, that's really just post once a day. That's kind of a good one to go. But I just got to say something today. Well, what am I going to say today? And then I'll look at my photos and go, what actually has something that I would want to read that I actually get excited about telling people, right? So, I did a post recently where I was doing an arabesque, which is where my daughter does to go arms out like a plane, arabesque, and she leans forward, right? She loves it. And so I'll do it and she loves it. And I'd seen a video somebody put up about that was kind of bashing people being servant leaders. And I was like, I'm a massive fan of being a servant leader and what that actually means. But it came back to like my daughter wanted to teach me something. I'm all about being able to be in that and be in the moment with her and so forth. And then I wrote a couple things about it, and maybe it's grammatically correct after Grammarly takes care of it. but it was, it was one meant it was expressing my love for my daughter. It was expressing my constant learning, and that I'm not afraid to do an arabesque sitting there with it, in the middle of the street for my daughter. But ultimately, we should all live like that. And so I think it comes out of what's genuine. If you meet me, you're going to get the same person you're seeing posting on LinkedIn, the same person you're hearing talking here, and the same person you're going to see at the coffee shop down the street. And I think that's what you're posting. If you do that, you're living in this world of, what am I going to say today? Well, what am I thinking? Right. And ultimately, I saw a video of somebody bashing servant leadership, and that frustrated me because it's such an amazing thing to really be a servant leader and actually believe in that. And so all those came together in a couple sentences. And I like that. And it didn't get 14 million views, but it got the right ones. It got the ones I want. It captured your attention, and there's your win.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, speaking of quotes, another great quote of ours is that we love to hear is service to many leads to greatness, right? And that's what it's all about, being a servant to many people. So let's take another look at this, because in regards to LinkedIn, right? And I mean, again, I'm obsessed with your content. So what do you have a story or two? Because it's about the long game. And, there's so many people say, yeah, I just started posting, but nothing's happened. Or I just started posting, I haven't got any leads. And to your point, I'll give you a story which was similar to an example that you shared. You know, I had someone reach out to me this week on DMs, and he's never liked any of my posts. I post every day. He's never commented on any of my posts. And yet he sends me a note saying, hey, I've been loving your content for the last year. So at least I know he's been watching some stuff for a year. And I think your company be a great fit for what I'm looking for. I'm starting a new business. And it's like, it's those secret audience members, like you were talking about, the Lauren Michaels.
Yeah.
Like, it's about the long game. And so how do you help your founders, your CEOs that you're working with, would have that delayed gratification, and allowing them to be patient, because you do need to be patient and be okay with delayed gratification in the content game for sure, right?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the perfect analogy of being able to develop a revenue process, right? You want to go out there, and you hear this all the time. People come in, we want to book 500 demos, right? Because that's going to save the world. And you go, well, no, for all these reasons, here's the process we got to build out. So I think that's, and the same thing of being able to create content is the same thing about the content that's going out, right? Is you don't have to be perfect. In fact, not being perfect is a little bit better. If you start a YouTube channel today and the videos come up not great, not very focused, and so forth, well, 6 months down the road, when you got it yourself kind of together and they're cleaned up and everything else, you're showing a growth pattern, right? You're showing you grew, but then you realize that those first ones taught you where you need to be. And so I'm perfectly fine being able to push out and input the basics of things that are in play, rather than having this perfectly lined out, here's your content plan of everything else. Because at the end of the day, you're going to do this big bell curve of really, really playing all this energy, blah, blah, blah. Then you're going to realize the stuff that actually works is the stuff that you actually want anyway, right? The things you want to talk about anyway. So it's like, it's that delayed gratification is actually good, because it turns you from, I'm going to put a quarter in and expect to get 3/4 back, to I'm going to put a quarter in and I'm going to expect to get nothing back. And the benefit I am going to get is the fact that I'm going to be able to play the game a little bit. I'm going to be able to be in it. And I think that works from a business development. And ultimately, when you start explaining to people in net revenue retention, and understand that this whole thing goes to the other side of use, expansion and churn become your two biggest enemies and accelerators when it comes to valuation of your company, ultimately, which is what you want. So when you go way back to how you're starting out with your posting content and everything else, what does that do to retain a customer and expand them ultimately long term? And most people don't think of that. They're thinking of how I can get a lead, how I can get a vanity metric. And really, a vanity metric doesn't help net revenue retention, but net revenue retention surely does help your valuation. Valuation is what ultimately secures the build of the company and jobs of the people that are expecting you to focus on that, not how many likes you can get off the post you can get today. So a little bit harsh when you kind of break it down to somebody that way. So you go, hey, you're a leader of a company, be a leader of a company, focus on the right thing with that. And the great part is I work with a lot of leaders of companies that they live by that as their North Star, which is super exciting to hear, because then you see they're interested in their people, they're interested in their company, and they're consistently engaged in the way you want to be able to see them be engaged.
Love that. Love that. So LinkedIn, kind of a cesspool of the phrase, this is dead, right? Meaning, phone call is dead, email is dead, content, it's like everything is dead these days. And it's interesting because, you are building go-to-market teams and strategies in place. I mean, what's your philosophy right now? What's dead? What's not dead? Is it all bullshit? Like, what would you be saying right now are the levers that we should be pulling when building out a go-to-market strategy for a client?
Building on rock. Just building on the rocks, man. There's too many shifting sands out there, and there's too many people who have only been doing this for 5 freaking minutes, and they haven't had their teeth kicked in. Just being real with you, but you have not. So I'm just like, sit down, close your mouth, actually go out there and get yourself beat up, then come back and tell me if something is dead or not. Because what you're going to find is phone calling, emailing, social posting, advertising to your correct ICP/demographic, an inbound funnel function that's going to be able to take your inbounds and work them well, an outbound function that's going to be able to match all of that, and being able to kick all that through mimics through your mid funnel, bottom funnel, and your adoption, use, and expansion all the exact same way is all going to work every single time. So nothing's dead. People just don't have the ability to come up with something to talk about.
Right.
And I'm talking to you. You're letting the people that read what you're writing dive into the fact that what you played on your latest PlayStation game be in the same vein of cold calling is dead, which ultimately means you either don't know or you don't care, which means that I have unfollowed you because the focus I have are these 15 people's jobs. And they're focusing on me being able to have my ideas and my game plan, not focused on what's exciting to get me something here today and say something's dead or something's whatever. Ultimately, I'm building a function that works. They have long-term jobs, long-term viability. So when it gets to that, I read those things, I really get unnerved because they haven't been in the game, or if they have, and then they put something up to say that, what that can do to a CEO that is not schooled in the art of that can come across now and make a decision and affect people's lives. And so that's big time, right? But I've been in the game where it's gone wrong, where I've been in a company where it all came apart and there was 1,200 people, and I watched great people lose their jobs because it didn't work out. And everybody had their eyes on the right thing. Everybody was working as hard as they could. But I've watched other companies where people did not focus on the right thing and they believed the wrong thing. And it came from same styles of, hey, this isn't working, this is dead. And then you watch companies come apart. So, I think at the end of the day, it's when we put those things up, we really need to think about our maturity level of what we're talking about. And if you're just a kid on the street trying to get a couple people to watch your video, do you, boo? I'm unfollowing you. Most people are unfollowing you. But if you're really out there, you have this large following and you're going to talk about something, give it the focus of being able to drive not just value, but leadership and insights for what we're doing, because the dry powder is going to start to move here in 25 and 26. And if people aren't focused on the right thing, there's going to be lots of money that can go the wrong way. But it means also at the same time, making the statements of the fundamental pillars of what work, the rock of what we do inside of our sales function, how it's there, how are there deficiencies relative to the current state, and where are their overall growths inside of there. That is excellent market knowledge, and that's what we need to focus on. So you can either be, Jim Cramer smashing logos on this is up and this is down, or you can be the Jim Cramer that you actually hear when he's interviewed and tells you specifically what's going on inside of a stock, and he's absolutely valuable. It's either one you can be. I'm choosing to be Jim Cramer that can tell you everything about the stock that's moving, and not the guy with the roller sleeve and the baseball bat.
Yeah. Wow. I knew that was going to cover a nerve a little bit, but I was excited that you got into that because it pisses me off too, and we're very much aligned. But that's what I love about your content, right? You don't post to entertain, yet your posts are entertaining because it's so packed with knowledge and experience, and it's amazing to see. So I just want to say thank you for what you do out there, and we do appreciate it a lot. What type of let's plug you a bit. What type of clients, your vast audience, should be reaching out to you, and who do you like to talk to, and who do you like to help and serve? To your point.
I think the biggest thing I'm focused on right now is companies that don't know what to do and they need clarification. And one of the biggest things that's on my heart currently is being able to, and I recently got accepted for my to the belonging company college for my master's of divinity, right? So I've another story about my wife and I. We went to South Beach, Miami, just the two of us, and we launched a church in South Beach, Miami. Ended up having church in a tattoo parlor every Sunday morning, and it was a remarkable season. And what I see is where my real interest is being able to help companies that don't have that don't have the insight, churches, nonprofits that they couldn't go out and get a Gabe or a Tim to give them insights on it, to be able to not just help, but be able to be a part of the conversation, to be able to give them insights on how they can increase their revenue, how they can think of revenue as an ability to move themselves forward. So really, that's what my main interest. That's my life goal, is to be able to work with organizations that don't have that, and be able to. And I find that brings the right people to work with, regardless, right, from any standpoint. But I think that there's a great opportunity for us to be able to grow as a sales culture, is to be able to grow companies that are starting out or wouldn't normally be in it, or doing good for the community, and really be a part of it as they're growing also.
Love it. It's awesome. How do people get a hold of you? I'm assuming LinkedIn, but what's the best way to connect with Tim Savage?
Netnew.solutions, and Tim at netnew.solutions is easy. And that I think when I messaged you when I launched this, I sent the message over to you, and I put in the wrong name. Like, I'd sent it out to a bunch of people, and I put the wrong name, and you messaged me back and said, well, so everybody gets that one wrong, just in case you thought you're alone. You're not. Everyone's done it. He said, well, that's not me, but I knew what the company did the second I read it. So let's chat here soon. That was the beginning of the season. So there's where you find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tim. We appreciate you. We appreciate your content. We appreciate what you do for clients. We appreciate your service mentality. And I look forward to more collaboration in the future.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.